One of the things we can do in Piskel to help us with our drawings is to use something called a mirror tool. So that's this one over here. What this basically means is that if I draw on the left side, it will also be drawn on the right side. So there's a line here that basically makes it so that drawings are symmetrical. If you hold the shift key, it will also mirror it along the horizontal axis. This is useful if you want to draw something symmetrical. For example, if I were to draw a star shape or rocket, I might draw something like this and just make sure that my ship would be symmetrical in all aspects, so it doesn't look a bit strange. But yeah, that's one of the things you can do. You can also use the rectangle marquee tool. So this is handy if you want to move an object. So let's say you've drawn something, let's say you're drawing a rabbit or an animal over here. And you realize, oh, I need more space up the top, right? Because there's just not enough space there. I've sort of drawn it in the wrong position. To move it, you can use the rectangle selection. Click and drag around the selection of your object. You can see there's a bunch of shortcuts here. So let's say I want to use the shift. I hold shift key. I can click and drag my design somewhere else. If I select the same thing, I hit Ctrl C to copy, it acts like a stamp. So you can move it to another position. If I hit Ctrl V, it will basically apply the design onto where I've just sort of pasted or stamped it onto. I'm just gonna delete that. Hit the delete key. You can also use the lasso selection, just a more free form version of the rectangle selection tool. Just gonna deselect that. Another thing we can use is something called the magic wand. So let's say I've drawn something like this, and there's some sort of fill involved in it. The magic wand will basically, or shape selection, will sort of look at the spaces that's sort of bordering it and will try to select the areas in between. So it's looked at it, see the other shape, and it will try and sort of act a bit like how the paint bucket does with filling an object. So this is another way to select things. The last thing is move. So this allows you to move whatever's on the screen around. Slightly different from the selection tool, but if you have multiple elements, that one's more useful because move tool will move every single thing on the screen. Last thing I want to go through is if you want to draw perfectly straight lines. What is really useful to do that is the line tool or the stroke tool over here. So let me just make it smaller. So if I click and drag, you can see how I'm creating a line. So if I hold it perfectly like that, I can just quickly draw a line. And I know it's not perfect, but I'll try to estimate where a line would be at an angle, like so.